the Depression came on, suddenly, as I remember. And the factories had signs, no help wanted. And once it said help wanted, the line was all around the building. And the Americans, the traditional Americans that were lived in Brooklyn, saw a Jew in the line and say, "Jew boy, get out of the line." And they already get beaten. Then they notice an Irishman, "Hey you, out of the line." And they squeezed the Italians. They call them wops in the old days. Jews, well, I think sheenies, I'm not sure. Anyway, they got them out of the line. Only if you look like an American, you can stay in the line. I remember when I was a kid, the Irish came over during the Irish, I don't know how long the Irish famine lasted, potato famine. And they came to America. And they worked for 1/2 the amount what Americans worked for. So the Americans used to beat up the Irish for that, taking their jobs away. Then later the Italians came in large numbers, and the Irish used to beat up the Italians because they worked for less. There was always a reason for it. The other kids used to watch them, but they never tried to analyze it or understand it, what was going on. They beat them up because they took their jobs away. They really didn't take their jobs away, they wanted to eat. And the Italians were always into breaking in the windows, and so were some of the Irish. The Jews were brought up not to commit crime heavily. The family was very tight and made them go to Hebrew school or whatever they had to do. But the Italian families had it so tough that even the songs they used to sing, "I meted a bigger fat cop and he says, go on to your wop." That was his songs that were typical when I was a kid. And the other songs were something like, "The birds are singing for me and my gal." And I looked at birds as making sounds, they weren't singing. Man projected that into the bird. Yeah. And they wrote songs about the birds are singing for me and my gal. Did you ever hear that one? Mm-hmm. He's the only witness. But anyway, the movies always had Mexicans sleeping in the sun under their sombrero. And the blacks were always running away from ghosts. And cowboys never solved any problems. They always took out their 2 guns and solved the problems. There was no intellect, nothing. The movies were really awful. Blacks were running away from ghosts with wide open eyes. And so all of us had, and the Orientals were always sneaking around in the movies. It was the Tong Wars. Does that mean anything to you? There were Chinatown in New York, and they used to fight each other. The Chinese had different groups. And the Chinese will all look alike. They wore skull caps and a long braid down at the hindquarters. And the suits were all black and the buttons and a string across. They all dressed alike. And when we saw a Chinaman, we'd run down the street and we'd look at him.